Have you ever stopped to think about whether the everyday sounds around you, hum of your fridge or the traffic outside your window or even just the clacking of a keyboard, could actually be the building blocks of an entirely new reality?
Well, the challenge there is really our psychological conditioning. From an evolutionary standpoint, human beings we're wired to filter those ambient noises out.
Right, we just block them out completely.
Exactly. We categorize them as background interference, a nuisance, or simply a lack of silence. So, treating the drone of an air conditioner as a piece of art requires fighting against our biological impulse to ignore it.
Okay, let's unpack this because that deliberate fight against our biology is really the core of today's deep dive. We are looking at the life and work of Yann Tomita, a pioneering Japanese artist who fundamentally redefined what music and, well, what sound actually are.
It really did. It's a massive shift.
Yeah, and our mission today, based on this really comprehensive MMR column about his work, is to explore how one individual managed to shift music from being a finished, polished performance into an editable, physical material. And more importantly, how his methods can literally change the way you perceive the world around you.
It represents a massive paradigm shift.
Mm.
We are talking about moving from passively receiving a song to actively experiencing sound as a tangible, almost architectural phenomenon.
Like it's a physical space.
Yeah, it's the difference between looking at a photograph of a building and physically walking through its hallways.
To understand how someone rewires the entire concept of electronic music, we actually have to go backward, right? We have to start with the most ancient physical form of music making there is, which is rhythm.
That's where it all begins for him, yeah.
Because Tomita's career kicks off in the 1970s, not behind a computer screen, but as a percussionist. And that physical, tactile origin story feels absolutely vital to everything that follows.
It fundamentally shapes his entire philosophy. When you play a violin or blow into a flute, you are manipulating an instrument to sustain a perfect standardized pitch. You're trying to hit a very specific frequency.
You want that perfect A note.
Right. But when you play percussion, you are physically striking an object to violently move air. The impact is immediate, the decay is natural, and the resulting sound wave is incredibly messy.
And that focus on the messy wave completely shifts the attention away from traditional musical pitch. I mean, he didn't care about playing a perfect C sharp. He cared about the raw texture and the timbre of the sound.
Yes, the texture is everything.
Think of a traditional musician like a painter focused on the final picture, agonizing over capturing the exact right color on the canvas. A percussionist like Tomita, on the other hand, is more like a sculptor obsessing over the rough texture of the clay itself.
That's a great analogy.
He began treating rhythm not just as a background beat to keep time, but as the fundamental architectural structure of the music. But how does that obsession with hitting things lay the groundwork for his electronic stuff later?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see why that early focus on texture was the crucial prerequisite for everything he achieved later. In traditional Western music, we map everything out on a strict grid of notes.
Right, like sheet music.
Yeah, a piano has 88 keys, and those are the only frequencies you are allowed to use. But when you strike a drum, or a piece of scrap metal, or a block of wood, you are generating a complex burst of overtones.
It's unpredictable.
Exactly. By stripping away the need to play a melody early in his career, he trained his brain to view sound not as a fixed note on a sheet of paper, but as a physical material that could be molded.
So he was already breaking sound down into its rawest acoustic components.
Yeah.
But I mean, the acoustic world only gives you so much clay to play with. You can only hit so many pieces of wood or metal before you hit a creative wall.
You run out of objects eventually.
Right. Which brings us to the technological explosion of the 1980s. Because Tomita already viewed sound as a raw material, the arrival of new technology didn't just hand him new instruments. It gave him a way to literally capture and manipulate reality itself.
And the technological leap here is the advent of the sampler. In the 1980s, samplers became commercially viable. A sampler is essentially a machine that allows you to record any audio from the real world, like a dog barking, a door slamming, a train passing.
You just grab it.
You grab it and instantly assign that specific audio file to a trigger. You press a button and the dog barks.
It shifts music entirely from performance to editing. He wasn't just playing an instrument anymore. He was taking environmental noises and forcibly placing them into very specific musical contexts to deliberately shake up the listener's perception.
Yeah, you take the sound of a heavy rainstorm, slice a microsecond of it, and loop it perfectly so it becomes the rhythmic backbone of a track.
Oh, wow.
It forces the listener's brain to reevaluate what that specific audio means. Is it weather, or is it a hi-hat cymbal? It is an act of sonic collage that shifts the listener from passive hearing into a state of active interpretation. The context dictates the meaning.
But he didn't just stop at sampling the real world. He combined these samplers with incredibly complex modular synthesizers, specifically the Surge and Buchla systems. And here's where it gets really interesting, because these systems, by design, didn't have traditional piano keyboards.
They did not.
They had no fixed timbre. So I have to ask, if you take away the keyboard and you take away traditional notes, how do you even tell a Buchla synthesizer what to play? Are you just turning knobs and praying?
Basically, yeah.
Is this still music, or is he essentially acting like a mad scientist running an audio laboratory?
I love that mad scientist analogy because it's totally accurate. The absence of a keyboard is a massive, deliberate philosophical statement by the inventors of those machines. Don Buchla intentionally left the black and white keys off his synthesizers because he knew that a piano keyboard carries centuries of Western harmonic baggage.
Oh, I see. So if you see keys, you just play chords.
Exactly. If you put piano keys in front of a musician, their muscle memory takes over and they just try to play traditional melodies. Buchla wanted to force users to abandon that framework entirely.
So how do you physically interact with it then?
Imagine a massive telephone switchboard from the 1920s instead of a piano. You are staring at rows of inputs and outputs. You physically plug a patching cable from a hole that generates an electrical voltage into another hole that controls the pitch of an oscillator.
Hey, really? You're just wiring it up?
Yeah, you are building an electrical circuit from scratch every single time.
It really is an audio laboratory. You aren't playing a song, you're setting up the conditions for a sonic event to occur.
And by combining sampling, which is recorded, objective reality, with these modular synths, which generate entirely new synthetic realities based on electrical currents, he was able to operate both on a single, unified layer.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. He effectively destroyed the boundary between found sound and created sound. He proved music doesn't have to be a sequence of intended notes. It could be a generated environment.
And he took that laboratory concept completely literally. In 1989, Tomita founded the Audio Science Laboratory, or ASL, and the stated theme of this laboratory wasn't something simple like, innovating electronic production. The theme was expansion of consciousness through music.
It is an incredibly bold mission statement. He was formally treating sound as a psychological tool. He was studying how frequency, spatial arrangement, and sonic texture physically and mentally affect the human organism.
Designing phenomena to directly alter perception. But just when you expect him to disappear entirely into an inaccessible avant-garde noise project, the 1990s arrive. And he launches a project called Doopies, which is a pop unit centered on bubbly, catchy, friendly vocals.
It is the ultimate left turn. You have a producer running an audio science laboratory dedicated to the expansion of human consciousness, and his follow-up move is forming a pop group.
It's so jarring. But the internal structure of Doopies was fiercely experimental. Their 1995 album, Doopie Time, functioned almost like a fictional radio broadcast. It mixed radio drama, fragmented sound, and dense sampling, blending music and storytelling together.
It's a very dense album.
So what does this all mean for the listener back then? To me, it sounds like a Trojan horse. Like he's using these friendly, catchy pop melodies to sneak highly experimental, consciousness-altering sound collages directly into your brain.
I completely agree. That Trojan horse analogy captures the mechanics perfectly. If you subject an audience to an hour of pure, abrasive, avant-garde noise, the human brain eventually habituates to it.
Right, you just get a headache and tune it out.
Exactly. It tunes the noise out to protect itself, establishing that chaos is the new baseline. But if you provide a sweet, familiar pop melody, the listener drops their guard. Then suddenly, the sound of breaking glass is rhythmically looped backward underneath the chorus.
Or like a disembodied voice starts narrating a surreal story right in the middle of a bridge. It just jolts the brain awake.
The contrast is what makes it effective. By hijacking highly familiar passive formats, like the radio broadcast structure, which people usually listen to while doing the dishes or driving, he forced the listener to actively engage with the weird, hidden fragments of sound.
He turned casual pop entertainment into a covert perceptual study.
He really did, essentially training a mainstream audience to listen with the ears of avant-garde sound artists.
But once Tomita figured out how to sneak these sounds into pop music, he clearly hit a wall. He didn't just want to surprise people with weird samples anymore. He wanted to actually mess with their biological hardwiring, like their sense of time and physical space.
And that required abandoning the pop format altogether.
Let's look at his later solo works, starting with music for Astro from the 1990s. This album expanded the spatiality of sound, making it feel like it was literally floating in space, freeing the listener from what is called an earthly sense of time.
The concept of earthly time ties directly back to his origins as a percussionist. Earthly time is a 4/4 beat. It is a marching band. It is the ticking of a clock.
It's very predictable.
It is grounded, linear, and completely predictable. With music for Astro Age, he used modular synthesis and advanced mixing techniques to remove that grid entirely.
How does he actually achieve that feeling of floating, acoustically speaking? Like, what is he doing?
He manipulates the stereo field. In simple terms, he makes the sound physically swirl around your head from the left ear to the right ear, washing the frequencies in expansive, cavernous reverberation.
So you can't pin it down.
Right, and he completely decouples everything from a steady rhythmic pulse. You lose your sonic anchor. When your brain can no longer anticipate the next beat, you stop tracking time, and you just float inside the texture. It genuinely alters your spatial awareness.
That is so cool. And then he takes on the concept of memory. In the 2000s, he releases a project called Forever Yann Music Meme 2. And this project is relentlessly focused on repetition.
The meme concept here is fascinating.
Yeah, we usually think of memes as funny internet pictures, but he is utilizing the original academic definition of a meme: how an idea, or in this case, a fragment of sound, replicates, mutates, and transmits through culture. He is treating audio like a living virus.
That's a great way to put it.
But I want to understand the mechanics here. If a sound keeps repeating but changes slightly with every single loop, how does that actually mess with our brain's memory while we are listening?
What's fascinating here is that it exploits the fact that human brains are incredibly efficient predictive engines. We evolved to notice sudden changes in our environment, like a snapping twig, but ignore constant stimuli, like the rushing wind.
Makes sense. We need to know if a predator is coming.
Exactly. When you hear a specific audio loop 3 or 4 times, your brain stops actively processing the audio to save energy. You think, okay, I know what this pattern is. You file it away in your short-term memory, and you start predicting what will happen next.
So your brain is basically telling you, I am hearing the exact same thing.
Yes, but it's actually more insidious than that. Your brain isn't just telling you it's the same. It's actively trying to overwrite or ignore the new audio information to protect its energy reserves. But Tomita would introduce microscopic, almost imperceptible changes to the loop.
Like what kind of changes?
A slight shift in pitch, a fraction of a second delay, a new low frequency subtly layered underneath.
So he crashes the brain's predictive engine.
That friction forces a sudden, jarring spike in consciousness. Your memory of the sound you heard 3 seconds ago and the actual physical sound hitting your eardrum right now begin to diverge. You start questioning your own recollection. It is a brilliant mechanical way to alter a person's physical experience of the passage of time.
Yeah.
You aren't just listening to a track. You're experiencing a real-time conflict between external reality and your internal memory.
Which makes it totally clear why an entire generation of Japanese hip-hop producers and experimental artists view this guy as the absolute godfather of the genre. I mean, he gave them permission to use the street as an instrument.
He really laid the groundwork.
He taught them that electronic music wasn't just about making a synthesizer mimic a grand piano. It was about manipulating the fabric of reality itself by treating sound as an ongoing process rather than a fixed tone.
His influence is foundational. He showed that sound isn't just a medium for conveying a melody. It is a raw material, a physical phenomenon, a trigger for memory, and a tool for expanding consciousness.
So what does this all mean for us today? We started by looking at a percussionist who obsessed over the rough texture of a drum hit. We followed him as he plugged cables into switchboards to generate unpredictable electrical voltages. We saw him hide experimental audio inside sugary 90s pop melodies. And finally, we explored how he used microscopic mutations in repeating loops to hack our biological sense of memory and time.
And the relevance of Tomita's philosophy is arguably more urgent now than it was during his peak. We live in a society absolutely saturated with endless notifications, alerts, and an overwhelming barrage of digital noise.
It's constant.
It is. Our instinct is to buy the most expensive noise-canceling headphones on the market and filter everything out. But Tomita invites you to do the opposite. He challenges you to stop filtering, to engage with the chaos, and to recognize that the overlapping audio of the modern world is a grand, ongoing composition.
Which brings up a fascinating new question. If Yann Tomita proved that slightly mutating repeated audio loops can intentionally crash our brain's predictive engine and mess with our short-term memory, what does that mean for the repeating notification chimes, the endless pings, and the auto-playing videos we expose our brains to every single day?
That is a terrifying thought, honestly.
We are constantly bombarded by micro loops of audio that change just slightly with every scroll of a feed. Are we unintentionally running Tomita's audio experiments on ourselves 24/7? And by doing so, are we actively altering our own perception of time without even realizing it?
It's definitely possible.
Something to think about the next time you reach for your phone to silence an alert. Maybe next time you step outside, don't put your headphones on. Try to listen to the world exactly the way Yann Tomita would.